Let's talk tariffs, a government tax on imported goods. Tariffs are one of the oldest tools in the government's economic playbook, and they're used all over the world. But what exactly do they do, and why do they matter to you? Think of it as a cover charge for foreign products entering the U.S. Before those goods hit store shelves, importers have to pay up, just to bring them in. The goal? Make imports pricier so American-made goods look better by comparison. It's a way to give local businesses a fighting chance against cheaper foreign competition. For example, if a German widget costs $10 and an Ohio widget costs $12, a 25% tariff bumps the German one to $12.50. Suddenly, Ohio's in the game. That price difference can sway shoppers to buy American, even if the foreign product was originally cheaper. But here's the catch. Importers pass those costs down the line, so you pay more for cars, appliances, even beer. Everyday items can get more expensive, and sometimes you might not even realize tariffs are the reason. Tariffs are meant to help domestic industries, but they can hurt others, like manufacturers who rely on imported parts. Small businesses and factories often depend on global supply chains, so higher costs can squeeze their profits or force them to raise prices. And if other countries retaliate, American exports get hit, sparking trade wars that hurt farmers and manufacturers. Suddenly, it's not just about imports, it's about jobs, exports, and entire industries feeling the impact. It's a risky balancing act, and when it goes wrong, it hits your wallet and job security. Families can feel the pinch, and workers can lose jobs if companies struggle to compete. Tariffs sound patriotic, but the reality is messy and complicated. They spark debates, protests, and tough choices for businesses and lawmakers alike. In 2018, the U.S. didn't just join the trade war, it escalated it. Suddenly, tariffs were front-page news, and the world was watching every move. That's where our story really takes off, when tariffs go from policy to headline, and the effects ripple across the globe. Let's rewind to 2018, a year when the Trump administration reached deep into the legal archives and revived Section 232, a Cold War-era law that most Americans had never even heard of. Suddenly, imported steel and aluminum were declared threats to national security, sparking headlines and heated debates across the country. The administration's reasoning was straightforward. If the U.S. became too dependent on foreign metals, it might not have enough steel and aluminum to build tanks, ships, and other military essentials in a time of crisis. The idea was to protect the nation's ability to defend itself by ensuring a steady domestic supply. To put this plan into action, the U.S. imposed a 25% tariff on imported steel and a 10% tariff on aluminum. These tariffs didn't just target traditional rivals, they also hit close allies like Canada and the European Union, straining diplomatic ties and surprising many. Imagine inviting your closest friends over for dinner, only to hand them a bill for the plates and silverware. Unsurprisingly, those friends weren't happy. Canada, the EU, and others quickly retaliated with their own tariffs on American goods, escalating tensions and sparking a trade skirmish. Critics were quick to point out a major flaw. Most U.S. steel imports actually come from allies, not adversaries. This made the national security justification seem shaky to many observers, fueling skepticism about the true motives behind the move. Many saw the tariffs as a thinly veiled form of economic protectionism designed to bypass Congress and give a boost to the struggling U.S. steel industry. The debate quickly shifted from national security to questions about fairness and economic strategy. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Steelmakers across the country celebrated, but manufacturers, brewers, and other businesses that rely on metal faced soaring costs and tough choices. Companies now had to decide, pay more for American-made metal, or swallow the tariffs on imports. Either way, profit margins shrank, and many businesses were forced to raise prices, passing the pain on to consumers. The policy split American industries right down the middle, igniting a legal and economic firestorm. Headlines warned of a looming trade war, and lawsuits began to pile up in courts across the country. It was a classic case of government policy helping one sector while unintentionally hurting many others, leaving small businesses especially vulnerable. The controversy soon set the stage for a major legal showdown, as industry groups and affected companies challenged the administration's authority. Years later, the battle over Section 232 and presidential power finally reached the steps of the Supreme Court, drawing national attention. The stakes were enormous. Who truly has the final say over America's trade policy, the president or Congress? The answer would have far-reaching consequences for the balance of power in Washington. The Supreme Court's decision would not only affect tariffs, but could reshape how trade policy is made for years to come. And to think, this entire saga began with a single controversial tariff. So, what happened next? Let's dive into the aftermath and see how this legal and economic drama unfolded. After years of lawsuits, the Supreme Court finally weighed in. The case: should the president have sweeping power to declare national security threats and impose tariffs? In a landmark 6-3 decision, the court said no. Now tariffs need a direct, immediate link to a real security threat, not just vague claims. The president can't just say, "We need steel for tanks." They must prove a specific, urgent risk. This ruling shifts trade power back to Congress and demands real evidence for future tariffs. The 2018 steel and aluminum tariffs? Legally dead. The decision sets a strict new standard for all future trade actions. The tariffs split America into two camps. Supporters, steel and aluminum producers, saw them as a lifeline, reviving mills and jobs in struggling towns. For them, tariffs meant survival and national security. Opponents included automakers, aerospace giants, brewers, and farmers. Anyone who used metal or exported goods. They argued tariffs raised costs, hurt exports, and triggered retaliatory tariffs that devastated agriculture. Economists mostly sided with the critics, blaming tariffs for higher prices, supply chain chaos, and inflation. The policy, they said, protected a few at the expense of many. For critics, the Supreme Court's decision is a return to economic sanity. For supporters, it's a tough blow. The debate over protectionism versus free trade is far from over. What does this mean for you? With tariffs gone, imported steel and aluminum get cheaper. Companies making cars, appliances, and beer cans save money. Some of those savings may reach you. For workers in metal-using industries, it's good news: lower costs, more jobs, and new projects. But for steel and aluminum workers, it's a gut punch. More competition, possible layoffs, and plant closures. Supply chains, disrupted by tariffs, can finally stabilize. Some companies may rethink overseas investments now that U.S. input costs are lower. Importers who paid billions in tariffs may seek refunds, creating a new headache for the Treasury. The ruling removes a big roadblock, but it's not a magic fix. The ripple effects will be felt for years. The Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves worldwide, reverberating through political and economic spheres. U.S. allies like Canada and the EU cheered. The tariffs had strained friendships and sparked trade fights. The ruling brought a sigh of relief and renewed optimism for future collaborations. The ruling is a win for global cooperation and the rules-based trading system. It underscores the importance of adhering to international agreements and fostering mutual respect among nations. Organizations like the WTO may regain influence as the U.S. recommits to fair play. This decision could mark a turning point in how global trade disputes are resolved. Not everyone's celebrating. China is cautious, knowing the U.S. still has other trade complaints. The tension between the two superpowers remains palpable. The decision lets America build stronger coalitions to address real issues, like China's unfair practices. It opens the door for more strategic alliances and cooperative efforts. Markets reacted instantly. Steel stocks fell, while automakers and manufacturers rallied. Investors quickly adjusted their portfolios in response to the new trade landscape. The ruling reshuffled winners and losers in the global economy. It highlighted the interconnectedness of markets and the ripple effects of major policy changes. For developing nations, it's a reminder that even superpowers must follow the rules. It reinforces the idea that fairness and equity are essential in global trade. The U.S. now has a chance to rebuild alliances and lead on trade. This moment presents an opportunity to mend fences and strengthen international relationships. But the world is watching to see what happens next. The stakes are high. The next moves matter. Every decision will be scrutinized, and the global community awaits the unfolding developments. With the old tariff rules gone, Congress and the President must act. The steel and aluminum industries want new protections, but any new law must meet the Supreme Court's strict standards. Congress faces pressure to define real national security threats and find smarter ways to fight unfair trade. Bipartisan cooperation is needed, no easy feat in today's Washington. The president must balance helping vulnerable industries with protecting the broader economy. That could mean job retraining, tech investments, or targeted aid. Internationally, the US can reset relations and build coalitions to tackle global trade problems, especially with China. The era of go-it-alone tariffs is over. Now, America must lead by example and strategy. The world is waiting to see if the US steps up or steps back. The next chapter is up to our leaders. So, what's the big takeaway? The Supreme Court's decision is a reset for American trade policy. No more one-person tariff power. It means lower prices for many goods, but tough times for some workers. The ruling forces Congress and the President to craft smarter, fairer trade laws. It's a chance to end endless trade wars and rebuild alliances. America can now lead a global push for fairer, more stable trade. But the transition won't be easy. Real people's jobs are at stake. Economic decisions in Washington ripple across the world, from Texas to Germany to Iowa. The Supreme Court hasn't solved everything, but it's started a vital conversation. The next chapter in American trade is being written right now. And that's a big deal.